Please allow me to introduce Miss Jamie Manuel, who embodies the roles of writer, foreign language instructor, and creative content creator. She graduated from St. Paul University, Manila in 2018 with a degree in Bachelor of Arts in English. Currently pursuing a master's degree in literature here at the University of Santo Tomas. Her dedication to academic excellence, writing stories, and imparting knowledge to foreign students serves as an inspiration to all who have encountered her. She is currently employed as a content writer at the Instructional Design, Knowledge Management Lead Support Services Group Makati, and English instructor to foreign students at the Language Development Center of St. Paul University, Manila. Ms. Jamie is also a contributing writer to Noipi Geeks from 2018 to present. Some of her published short stories are Down the Rabbit Hole, The Pharmacist, and Shadow Soldiers and Other Historical Hauntings under different publishing houses. Please welcome Ms. Jamie Manuel. Let's give her a thunderous round of applause.
Hi everyone, good morning. Have you all taken your morning coffee? Breakfast? Okay, as a writer, I always drink coffee before I eat the meals. So please, don't be like me, it's unhealthy, especially if you're acidic. So, while we are waiting for the PowerPoint presentation, I am going to talk about literature and the teaching of literature. And how we will do this, how I will do this is, there you go, better, okay. How I will do this is that my presentation will be based on 4 Harry Potter spells. So that will include Alohomora, but let's see what are the other spells that I have in store for you. Alright, so let's just have this on full screen. Let me just test if this works. Okay, so I guess I can start. Let me just pull this a bit close. Okay. So let me just test. Oh, there we go. So once again, good morning everyone, and I hope that you're able to sip your drinks, sip your coffee if you have coffee with you, and let's start. This is going to be a mythical, magical, and probably a little chaotic, I don't know, in the fictional world of the young. So myth, magic, and mayhem in the fictional world of the young adults, the teens, the children. And of course, how do we deal with them? How do you deal with people our age? By the way, I'm in my 20s, okay? I am still considered a young adult, probably, okay? So how do you deal? How do we teach literature? How do we introduce literature to people your age, my age, or if you have siblings that are younger? probably as early as 5, as early as when you started teaching them how to read their first words, or your parents started teaching them their first words. So, let's begin. First, let's do this in the way that we always hear how stories begin. I think we are all familiar with the phrase, once upon a time. I do not know what year you were born if you have not heard of this familiar phrase, once upon a time, okay? So once upon a time, in my time, when I was first learning how to love literature, read, love, we had this. This is how our teachers in elementary, in high school, this is how they made us develop our love for reading. So if you are familiar with this, I am not sure if you are still familiar with this, especially this first picture, the one on top. What is this called? SRA. Very good, yes, that's correct. SRA, or your Power Builder books. So for those who are competitive, okay, for those who are racing and telling their classmates, oh, I'm in color blue, I'm in color blue, what color are you? Oh, you're just color brown? Oh, you're a slow reader, color brown ka lang. I'm color blue, I'm in my last, okay? So, your competitiveness for the love of reading started here. And then we have the one here on the bottom side, on the right side. These are book fairs, book conventions, but in a small scale. Because back then when I was in high school, I took my high school in Santa Rosa, Laguna, Canosa. So we always have this annual, or at least, we had book conventions 2 times a year in an auditorium. So there would be like a small space there, and there would be books like Scholastic, all those picture books, because in our school, we also had elementary students who are going to these book fairs. And then we have, of course, library period, okay? We had our library period where the librarian will pick the students up from the classroom, and she will say, okay, come with me to the library. Everyone will be reading a book for 30 minutes, okay? Everyone is required to pick a book from the shelf if you don't have your own book, and then you will be given 30 minutes to read. And then you can go proceed to your classes. And then from my high school, we have the DEAR time, DEAR. They say it's drop everything and read. This usually happens after lunchtime. Lunchtime is 12 to 1. So if it's not library period, we stay in the classroom, and then the principal or the assistant principal, she will go around, and then she will peek in our classroom windows. She'll see if everyone is doing their time. And then some of my classmates, they would read the book upside down because they were scared that, oh, the principal's there, I better read the book. No textbooks allowed. Textbooks is not considered something that you read, for pleasure. So you have to have a fiction book with you for their time. However, and that's once upon a time, however, we have the present situation for young adults. Young adults who would pick up tablets, would pick up phones, or I don't know, they sometimes pick up the laptop. It's heavy. I don't know how 5 years old can pick up a laptop this heavy, but they do. And the morning they wake up, the moment they wake up, it's just tablets, it's just games, and sometimes even when they wake up, a cartoon is already playing in front of them. And then when you give young people a book to read, or just a booklet, a thin booklet, they get tired easily. They fall asleep even before getting through the first page, like the boy on the other picture. So, we proceed with the first magic spell. So, this one is not very visible. Not sure why, but it's the font is actually yellow. All the fonts are yellow, so I'm not sure why it's not visible there. But let me read to you the spell, the first spell. Evanesco. Evanesco. the vanishing spell. My dear children of Hogwarts, you cannot graduate in Hogwarts if you do not know the spell, Evanesco. The vanishing spell, but in this case, the vanishing magic of reading in the time of technology. In the time of technology. In the time of tablets, e-books. So, young people, and when I say young people, by the way, I am referring to children, as in children in the elementary level or even the primary level, and teens, senior high to college. So young people in general. Of this generation, post-teaching challenges. First of all, we have the technology. That's a given. Technology is a given. And then you have children who are more into physical activities. Not only boys. Mostly boys, but even girls. They prefer physical activities. I have seen young girls who would, join boys in their basketball games, in fighting games, right? In brawls. And then you have, of course, physical activities, group activities. Group activities in school, when the teacher says, okay, group yourselves into 5. Find your group mates. The students will probably say, ay, ayoko siyang kagrupo, ba't kailangan mag-group, right? But with kids, they're more into group activities. They prefer working with a group, with their fellow age. And then you have other distractions. Other distractions like when you're trying to teach them something, not even academically, but you're trying to teach them a skill. They easily get distracted. The moment they hear noise that they are familiar, or the moment that adults start talking and then they hear something that might sound curious to them, they will easily get distracted. What's that? What are you talking about, right? And then there, your lessons are gone. It's easy how children can get distracted these days. What more teaching them how to read, teaching them how to love reading. The point is, young people are more visual. I believe young people are more visual. That's why it poses a challenge to say that making them read at least one paragraph, it's not really a thing anymore for young people. This is a generation that leans toward graphics or images, to the point that even children as young as 3 years old, or not 3 but 5, they even have high standards when it comes to cartoons. I have a niece, I showed him a cartoon from long ago, the old Tom and Jerry animations, and he's like, Tita, ayoko niyan, ang pangit ng animation, mas gusto ko yung animation na, I don't know what cartoon he was watching, but the animations were better. So children have high standards, even when it comes to visuals. So when you make them pick up, for example, a book, and they see that, oh, why does this look boring? They will immediately get turned off in a way. Oh, is this what books are supposed to be like? Why is it not colorful? Why is there not a lot of pictures? So the moment they see that, Mom, Dad, teacher, I don't like reading. It looks boring. No pictures, only pages. So, here's the question, the main question for all of us, you. How do we teach today's young generation of young people to love, appreciate, reading, not just reading, but even storytelling? Who knows, right? With reading comes writing. So who knows? How? How do we do that? In a generation where it's full of distractions. Here comes our second spell. So it's not yet readable, but the second spell, hope and happiness. If you remember the Harry Potter spell, where you need to think of happy thoughts to conjure something. What is that spell? Expecto Patronum. The hope and happiness in children's and adult literature. How do children, or young people in general, how do they conjure this Expecto Patronum when it comes to reading? How do they see the happiness in that? You cannot really just tell children, read that book, you will be happy. They will say, oh, why are we going to be happy? It's just words. We can't understand. No, even if you show them the pictures. I don't like the picture, change it. Okay? then tell the author to change it. I didn't write that, okay? So, what are the kinds of stories or plots that young people are into these days? What makes them tick? That's the question. We are going to do this way. There are two subjects that we are facing, two audiences when we teach. One, we either teach senior high people's age or college age, which are young adults, teens, or we start practicing our teaching of literacy and literature to our young siblings or our young family members. And there are really two ways. Those are two different ways on how we do that. We cannot apply the kind of method that we use for teens, okay, to children the age of 5 years old. So, first of all, what do young adults like to read? Or what are they into? Movies or books? What are they into? So, first of all, young adults or teens, they like stories that depict reality, experience, or situations where the teens would choose to live in. So for example, the teen that is reading doesn't have a love life, okay? Poor person doesn't have a love life. And then she or he reads a Colin Hoover story and then sees, oh, this girl has a better love life than me. I want to be that girl. You have it, Colin Hoover. Read this book. You will find a character there that has a better love life than you. That's a quote from one English major to another. Okay? You also have, of course, the genres that we are more used to. Romance, the example I just gave. Adventure, like Percy Jackson. By the way, Percy Jackson, the remake, the live-action remake, will come out on Disney Plus, I believe this December. Wait for it. So adventure, science fiction, sci-fi. And then of course, you have the lack of adult presence. No mommy, no daddy, no older people in a story. So Percy Jackson, right? The mother appears in the first few pages, first few chapters, or if you are referring to the movie, the mother appears in the first few scenes. And then what happens to the mother? The mother died. And the rest of the movie is just about Percy Jackson and his friends. No presence of a mother, okay? That's what teens want to read. They want to read independent young people without a mother, a father telling them always what to do. Kasi you don't want to read stories where the parent is always reprimanding the child. Kasi in your real life, my parents are already scolding me, my parents are reprimanding me. Why would I want to read something where the parent is also reprimanding the character? How do I escape reality from that? And then you have the physical or emotional or both relation to the characters. Physical and emotional. There are many teens who are insecure about how they look. Literature, writers, we can write about teens who feel insecure about themselves. We can make them, or we can make characters who are relatable to the youth. And that's what the youth is looking for. Someone to relate to. That's their happy thought. Meanwhile, children, if you are familiar with the Little Golden Book series, which includes, one of the titles is The Pokey Little Puppy. I used to read that back in the day. They're just very thin books, and they are full of pictures. The stories are sometimes original, sometimes adapted. But the point is, for girls, young girls, the moment they hear unicorn, where? Okay, where unicorn? Here's the unicorn in the book, go read. Okay, sit down, go read, there's the unicorn. Boys, they like dragons, ninjas. If you want to be neutral, for boys or for girls, there's castles, knights and princesses, where the knights, they save the princesses, or sometimes even the princesses are independent enough to save themselves, or vice versa.
we build strong women, right? We build strong girls as writers. It's not always the knight saving the princess, okay? And then, of course, you have terms like Enderworld, Roblox. The moment a child hears that, where Enderworld, where Roblox? It's here in the book that I'm holding. Sit down, read, realize what I am telling you about Roblox, okay? Or if you want me to read to you, I'll do that. Sit down, shut up, and I'll read, okay? And then we have cartoon adaptations, like for example, this Pokemon book that I have. It's a movie, but it got adapted into a book, complete with posters. Children love that. It's their weakness, the posters. Okay, so stories that explain something. You have the legends and the myths, but at the same time, children just want explanation for everything. That's why they're annoying. They ask everything. Ma, why is there a woman that looks like a man? Ma, why is there a man that acts like a woman? Oh my gosh, you need to explain all of this. So a lot of writers put it in a book, in a picture book. They write about having two mothers. They write about having two fathers, just to explain. And then of course, more photos, less words. All of these books, they have more illustrations than there are words, okay? Young readers need to relate to something or someone. Always think that their happy place, their hope, their expecto patronum when reading a book is to relate to something or someone. Doesn't have to be a person, it can be a symbol in a book. So what are we talking about with the expecto patronum of the young adults? There is a need to feel happiness. There is a need to feel satisfaction. Because when you make them read the book, you don't automatically ask them, oh, do you know the message of the book? They're gonna be like, we read the book just because you want us to analyze it. We read a book because we want to feel happy. We want to get out of this reality. So, where is that happy place? In a book. Give them a book that interests them. There's their happy place. When they feel sad, when they feel insecure, they conjure up that image. Oh, I read this in a book. I have someone I can relate to. I don't need to feel insecure about myself. There's a book that says I can be this way. I can look like this way. There's your happy place. So, we proceed with the third one. Incendio. Incendio. To ignite. Incendio is that spell to create fire. Fire for what? Igniting literacy, literature, and comprehension among the young. How do we do that now? Knowing what makes them tick and knowing what does not make them tick. How do we say incendio? The love for literature. I love reading. I love writing. Okay, how do we confirm that? Here are just some of the ways that you will be able to impart or start your journey with introducing books and reading in general to young people. Which again, I will divide this between teens, young adults, and children, as in children in the elementary or primary age or kindergarten age. With children, of course, we have activity books, picture books, pop-up books, the thing where they say, okay, you see this book? It allows you to touch something. Touch the fur of the dog, I mean, okay. There's a fur, then you can touch it. Look, this is leather. You can touch it, okay? You can flip through the book and there's always something new that will pop up. So they like those kinds of things. They're invested in that because it surprises them. And again, they are visual learners. Visual learners and they cater more to their senses. They want to smell something. There are some children's books that actually allow children to smell a page. And then they will realize, so this is what this smells. And then you have other examples, The Cat in the Hat, or other Dr. Seuss books. Children loves to rhyme. They might say that, oh, it's boring, teacher is making us rhyme again. But the moment that they read rhymes, imagine that they will just sing it. They love to boast their superiority, their pride, that they come home, Mom, Dad, I know how to rhyme now. I memorized the whole Cat in the Hat book. That's their pride. That's their sense of pride, actually. And then you have these books, Brown Bear, what do you see? The Very Hungry Caterpillar, all of this are visual books. Again, less words, more images. We want books for children that way. These are books. The previous slide were books by foreign authors. And then we have books that are published by publishing companies like Lampara, Adarna. Those publishing companies cater to children's books. We have old books during our time. My time, si Pilandok. I believe this is a dog. Until now, I'm not sure what animal this guy is. But si Pilandok teaches about culture, different Philippine culture, because Pilandok is all over places. And then you have books like Chenelin, Araw sa Palengke, and then I've seen books like what I mentioned a while ago, Dalawa ang nanay ko, Dalawa ang tatay ko, which explains about the queer community to people as young as 5 years old. Because people can see that, and that happens now. Children gets adopted with two mothers, two fathers. And then here's one more book, the upper photos. Ako ay may titi, ako ay may kiki. Or in English, I have a vagina, I have a penis. A lot of people are actually divided with these books. Some don't like it, while some agree that yes, as young as 5 or 10, we can teach this to people to make them aware of the proper usage of terms and to avoid possible sexual harassments in the future or possible disrespect. When you go to class, you're aware that boys have this, girls have this. It's just a matter of explaining to them, oh, don't say that always, because you only say that during appropriate times, but you don't say titi freely, okay? Put it in the right context, okay? It's to avoid having children misuse words that are more inappropriate. Like, for example, young boys who say, putoy, right? So, what's that? Why are you saying that? And they don't even know what that means. They just heard it from their parents while they're taking a shower, for example. So, there has to be an explanation for everything. Again, more pictures, less words. Think like a child, approach like a child. Games, activities, of course, without losing your learning focus. You can do games, you can have fun, you can give prizes, but of course, the prizes have to be your expense, okay? If you want to give candies in class, the candies will come from your own budget, okay? Not from the children. You don't say, okay, bring candies in class, we're gonna have games, okay? You do that. So for middle school level, you have Roald Dahl books such as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the BFG, Witches, okay? Middle school level, so 12 years old to 15 maybe, or somewhere around, even as young as 10 can read. Depends on how fast the child is. Then you have Diary of a Wimpy Kid. These have already become films. So it's not a problem introducing this to children and having them say, we can watch the film, or you can, watch the film while reading the book. And then for local flavors, you have Janus Silang, which is kind of our Percy Jackson here in the Philippines, Janus Silang. And then you have Marikit and the Ocean of Stars. Those are really good middle school books, for especially for children who are fast learners. Okay? Then young adults, start with short stories, novels, okay? Students constantly try to find relevance in reading and learning. Ask yourself, why choose this topic? What skills or messages are you trying to impart today? Remember, no matter our age, we are always looking for that cycle of up and down. We always want to be the hero, but at the same time, not always the hero. We want to see that endless cycle of losing and winning. So, last, Alohomora. Alohomora. Open that opportunity for literacy and literary appreciation. Your role as an English or literature educator is to guide young people, reconnect them with stories. If you don't want them to read books, share your own story, make them write their story, share them to the class, encourage them. Who knows, they may grow up as writers. You are not just someone who goes into class, gives reading materials, discusses it, and then say, okay, we're done. Call it a day. Here's your assignment. Your job is to ignite that emotion. Reconnect with life. I'll leave you with this quote. Dead Poet Society. I do not know if you have watched this. This is a very old film. Not very. Old film when Robin Williams was still alive. One of his best. And this movie is actually about Robin Williams as an English professor. He goes to this class, he goes to teach a school, all-boys school I believe, who does not really appreciate reading. And when they ask him, teacher, what's the point of learning literature? This is exactly what he said. Let me read it to you. And as Robin Williams passed it on to their viewers, I'll be your Robin Williams. I'll pass this on to you now. We read and write poetry, or literature in general, because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion and medicine, law, business, engineering. These are all noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, literature in general, okay? Literature, beauty, romance, love, these are what we all stay alive for. This is what keeps us alive, okay? Ignite that passion in you. Okay? Nauna na sa open forum. Okay. So, nauna na. Okay. So, ignite that passion in you. And my dear fellow English majors, literature educators, you too can create that magic. A little mayhem, yes, but always the magic in literature. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jamie Manuel, for sharing an insightful information that deepened our understanding of why children and adolescent literature should be a major topic in teaching literature.
Indeed. Now, as if unlocking the room of requirement, we are opening the floor to the question and answer portion where you can conjure your queries like true wizards.
Are there any questions you would like to ask? Ask free wizards. You can use the microphone in front if you have any questions. So it seems like there are no questions from the audience. However, we would like to ask a question that we got from the pre-registration form. What is the most intriguing and rising issue about child-adolescent literature related that you think is still unresolved or unnoticed?
Okay. So what is the problem when it comes to children's literature, or the core problems that we still have now that we had back in the day? I think that it's still technology, because technology exists back in the day. There were already people who were distracted by computer games or even the arcades, people or children who are excited to have their own phones. Even now, as technology evolves, so does the distraction. So technology still remains as one of the problems or core problems that is kind of distracting, or not really distracting, but making the learning of reading or learning in general a difficulty, a challenge.
So the second and last question is, what are the important methods or strategies in teaching literature to adolescents and children? And how does the school or government curriculum affect the selections of reading texts or materials that the students will study in class in relation to their interests and the trends of literature for young people nowadays?
Okay, so the first question before the government thing was The first one, the first few lines was...
What are the important methods or strategies in teaching literature to adolescents and children?
Okay, so for that, the important methods is that there are really no, this is the best method. This is the only method that you should follow, okay? Everyone has their own experience with children. Everyone deals with young people all the time. So I think that the best strategy that will work when you are already in the classroom is based also on your experience, based on what you have learned. And if, for example, this is how I learned reading, okay? As a young adult, this is how I learned reading. Maybe I can try doing this strategy to these people and hopefully get them to, like this method as well, this reading process. And then the second one, the follow-up after that.
How does a school or government curriculum affect the selections of reading texts or materials that the students will study in class in relation to their interest and the trends of literature for young people nowadays?
Okay, first of all, it was the government who announced years back Philippine literature shouldn't be a thing anymore. History shouldn't be a thing anymore. So, here's what I say. I'm not saying don't trust the government, okay? What I'm saying is still the same thing. Do your own way, do your own strategy. Okay, the government gives this curriculum, this is what you should make the students read. Or this should be your curriculum to follow. Read through it respectfully, right? But it's okay for you to say, I don't think my class, I don't think my students would like to read this. I'll change it, I'll modify it. You don't have to be a slave to what the curriculum says. You can modify it, given the permission, of course, of the school, given all other circumstances. If you think this is the best teaching method, okay, this is my students, I know my students, okay, let them know. I think my students will learn better this way. Please give me a chance. Please give me a chance, okay? Open your mind. Teach your students as well to speak up. Not against the government, okay? Not yet, but teach them that value. Speak up, make yourself known. This is how I want to read, okay? This is how I want to teach reading. Go with that path.
Okay, so that concludes our question and answer portion, and may we now call on...
Partner, I believe there's someone from the audience who would like to ask our speaker. Oh, there are two.
Anyway, hi Jamie. Well, we're friends, right? So this is my question. A while ago, I was listening to your talk, no? And apparently, we both know, I guess even the students here would know, no, that literature, no, at this point is again challenged. No, I don't know if you're aware of this, that in most universities, literature departments are dead. In other words, they're out. They're not here anymore. So I think it's only in the Big Four that we have it. But here's my question. For instance, no, I'm an engineering student or I'm a pharmacy student. No, I'm someone from the sciences. So we're talking about these things that conditioning that ourselves that we are lovers of literature. Now, the thing is, how do we entice these other people, or should I say, the other students, no, in pharmacy or in the hard sciences, in medicine even, to at least, no, ignite, no, that that interest perhaps that they have with literature.
Thank you, Ralph, and thank you for that question. It's actually really nice because I've experienced this one as someone also working in a corporate company with businessmen. And then when I told them, oh, I have to focus on my literature subjects, they're like, bakit? This is more important. Our business is more important than your, your minor reading stuff. So how? I believe as a literature major and as a writer that there will always be a book for everyone. There will always be a story for everyone. Even if you're a farmer, right? You're a farmer or you are very far from the arts, from literature, creative writing, teaching, mass communication, there will always be books for them. Why do you think businessmen, they invest on the blank for dummies, okay? All reading materials, or media that has, a form of literacy in them, that's literature. Literature doesn't have to be fictional. Literature doesn't have to be Percy Jackson or children's books. It can be those Black for Dummies. And pharmacists, you can suggest it to them. It starts with that. Sir, for example, doctor as in of medicine, doctor, I think that I will give you this book. I received this book or I saw this during my MIBF trip, okay? I thought of you and I'm like, oh, I think this will help you in your field of medicine. As an English major to a doctor of medicine, I am imparting this book to you, okay? This is my gift to you. If you read it, thank you. If you don't, you're too busy to read, at least you know that this is how English majors show their love, okay? Even for those that may not understand what we do here.
Okay, so is there someone else from the art team? Okay.
Hello po. So here's my question po. Earlier you mentioned that children prefers to read literary pieces to escape reality. How about what if we consider reading literary text that tackles reality? So here's my question po. How will we convince children to read literary pieces that is out of their interest?
Okay, so again, thank you for that question. Let's consider that a lot of children, even for example, it's their interest. They don't like to read it. I mean, either in Tagalog, they say tinatamad sila or they're too distracted. So even if they say they're interested or not, they will refuse to read. So again, just like what I mentioned a while ago, do not force the children to read something, especially something that they do not like to read. Find a way around it, okay? For example, their interest is in playing or in this kind of book, but you're making them read a book, for example, a textbook that they need for school. That's not their interest. They don't even want to study nga eh. They just want to play. Give them time, kasi I believe that when you force children to read something, kahit na they're interested, and they don't like it at the moment, they'll be traumatized for life. So, if they're not interested talaga, even if it's picture books or something na I explained a while ago, pambata naman talaga siya, give it time, okay? Give it time, be patient enough. These are children, be patient, okay? And then try again. If not, then this book or reading material that they're not interested, try to like make an activity or make it interesting for them. Okay? Make the uninteresting interesting. And that's the challenge for everyone, right? The challenge, and once you get past the challenge, oh, I made this child read something uninteresting. Your pride. Okay?
So, are there any follow-up questions?
Hello. So, my question po is, speaking of making reality palatable for children, I heard of children's books that deal with controversial topics like World War II and the Holocaust. How do you recommend making really dark topics accessible to young children as to make them more child friendly? Because I think those are important, but we can't at the same time. Like for example, we probably think that they should be older to learn those things, but at the same time, it's also true that they should learn it at a young age because they're such important things to learn. So the core question is, how do controversial and heavy topics become more accessible to children through literature po?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yes, so we do have controversial topics, like for example, violence such as wars, others, if not controversial, sensitive, like the one I showed you a while ago, the ako ay may, right? So how do we introduce that to young people around, say, the age, not 5, kasi hindi naman sila interested pa talaga sa mga ganyan, kahit picture books, but say 10, okay? I believe as a writer, okay, this time I'm speaking as a writer, if I am to write a children's book, for example, about World War in the Philippines, or World War in general, What I'll do is I think that I'll try to filter out the violent parts, the gory parts, the graphic parts. We do not want all those bloody pictures in a children's book, okay? They'll be traumatized as well. But I'll explain to them, for example, or I'll write about why did this war happen, for example, the general things that they need to know. Why did the war happen? Who started it? Why do wars happen? Okay, not going straight to the point. But I think with explaining or reading this to children, there should always be guidance from the adults, from a guardian. So, for example, they come to the point where, but mom, dad, I heard that a lot of people got killed during that time. What if mas matalino pala yung bata, no, nakabasa na ng ganito? The parents are there to explain. So it's always about guidance when reading or talking about sensitive topics that are turned into children's lit as well.
So are there any more questions? One last.
Okay, good morning. Sorry. As you have said that, about the parents, as you are knowledgeable enough that parents' role is immensely crucial to the child's learning, and literature is intensive, right? How about if the child's parents themselves are not into reading and do not appreciate the magic in books? As you have also mentioned that it's a matter of explaining to the young reader, and does this mean that this is the time that we, like literature in general, should upgrade as the technology is?
Hi, yes, thank you for the question. And yes, because before, a lot of parents, guardians are invested in books. Because back then, there are not a lot of computer games, there are not a lot of technology, so it's books, even the small books. But now, not a lot of parents are even into books, especially young parents, teen parents. They're not into books. But how does that work around? How do a child work around, for example, I want to read a book, but not that my parents don't allow it, but I don't think they can support me in my passion. I think that yes, technology should have this big step forward for allowing children to access reading materials or media within technology. That's why we have ebooks. But most ebooks that I see so far are archives from novels, but I haven't really seen a lot of ebooks that cater to children's books being turned into an ebook. So I think that in the future, I think that publishing companies or writers, publishers should have this step forward to allow more access to children's books, not just physical copies, but whatever children are using these days.
So that concludes our question and answer portion, and may we now call on Mr. Eric Rainier San Pedro to share his insights.
No, first of all, thank you po for your talk with us. And I am really reinvigorated when you first talked about the SRA book fair and the drop everything and read program, because those things are my experience during grade school and high school, and those things are really evidence that literature is really an effort that is continuously being pursued by our education system. And in terms of technology, I think we have the power to turn it from a boon into a bane, because we have the power to immerse ourselves and turn those distractions into something meaningful. Like I have an experience I am an advocate, member of the UST UNESCO Club, and one of our core pillars is education. And our project before, we had a seminar, a webinar. We made a storybook, from technology, and our topics were actually um, on culture, discrimination, and gender identity, and even financial literacy. And our target audience was children from Barangay Galilee in Antipolo. So what we did was to conduct a seminar, and I think this is the beauty of technology. And we have really the power to turn something bad and turn it into something beautiful. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. And now for our next panel reactor, Sir John Paulo Q. Herrera. LPTMA is the Faculty of Arts and Letters, Pedagogical Lead, and a full-time faculty member of Department of English, where he concurrently holds the position of Thesis Coordinator for an English Language Studies program. He finished his Master of Arts in English Language Education in De La Salle University and is about to finish his PhD in Applied Linguistics in the same university.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's
Thank you
okay.
so much for the
Thank you.
introduction. Very kind introduction. I'd like to first of all congratulate our esteemed speaker, Ma'am Jamie Manuel. A round of applause for Ma'am Jamie Manuel. It's a difficult task. I appreciate that. I also would like to give a special shout out to the third year English major students for coming up with like such a very good and interesting event like this one. So a round of applause for third year English major students. And also special shout out to third year ELS and fourth year ELS students who are also present here right now to watch this event. So I am sure that you have learned a lot from our esteemed speaker, Ma'am Manuel. And like what I said, it's a difficult task. And I just have a few points to highlight from her talk. Number one, I think it's really imperative for us English teachers, future English teachers, that to curate a diverse selection of literature. Children and adolescents should have access to books that reflect various cultures, backgrounds, and perspectives. And this not only broadens their horizons, but also promotes inclusivity and tolerance. And I especially resonate with the last question that was asked, accessibility, as someone who's also connected with the Department of Education. And for those of you who will be teaching in public schools after graduation, you should be very well aware that our students do not like reading at all, or they have parents who do not even know how to read or do not like reading at all. So this is quite a challenge for all of you to actually encourage our students, especially in the public sector, to read and love reading. And also, as teachers, and as mentioned by our speaker, there's no magic method. As teachers, of course, we share our experiences when we teach literature. We also do engagement through storytelling. And storytelling is a fundamental part of human culture. Utilize engaging narratives that capture young imagination. Stories with relatable characters and themes help students connect with literature on a personal level. And that's also based on experience. Approach a literature on a personal level, and they will love it. And also, this is, I think, the most important, literature encourage critical thinking, and that's what we do as teachers, to encourage critical thinking. We ask questions a lot, and that's what we like doing. And literature offers a platform to explore complex issues, dilemmas, societal challenges, encourage students to analyze and question what they read, fostering a deeper understanding of what the world around them. And ultimately, the goal is to create lifelong readers. Encourage our friends. Let's start with our friends to read and be lifelong readers so that we can also ignite and instill a passion for literature that extends beyond the classroom. Teaching literature to children and adolescents is a noble endeavor that shapes future generations. By embracing diversity, encouraging critical thinking, and fostering a love for reading, we empower young minds and to become informed empathetic, and engaged citizens of our country. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Eric and Professor Odetta. The first open forum has now concluded. We will now call on Ms. Stella Maris P. Injongco de Ornelias and Mr. Ralph Edward P. Ziquito on stage to hand out the certificate and for the photo op together with Ms. Manuel.
As a token of gratitude, we, together with our professors, are handing out this certificate of appreciation for taking the time to speak and be present for our symposium. This certificate of appreciation for imparting your valuable insights, experience, and expertise shared with the participants of the symposium. Alohomora, Unlocking the Doors of Language and Literature, given this 28th of September 2023 at the Albertus Magnus Auditorium, University of Santo Tomas.
Now, wizards, are you all okay? Yay! More energy po, more energy.
No, it's fine. I'll sit here.
So,